Well, hello everybody. My name is Khoa Nguyen. I am a lecturer of anatomy, physiology, and medical terminology, aka medical English, at Hồng Bang University right now in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. So in this video, we are going to draw out together, you and I, the coronary arterial system of the heart. It is the arterial system that consists of two main vessels, the left and the right coronary arteries, that do the job of going to the heart and feed or supply different structures in the heart, including a very important component that is the myocardium of the heart. All right, so a couple of disclaimers before we begin. Number one, you will need two types of pens in order to draw out these structures with me. Number one pen you need is a black or a blue pen. And this black or blue pen we are going to use in order to draw out the structures of the heart itself. All right. And now there will be a second thing that you need. That is going to be a red pen. And this red pen is going to be used to draw out the structures of the coronary arterial system. Coronary arterial system. Which kind of makes sense, right? Because you need something to kind of stand out from the background of the heart, basically. All right, so the second disclaimer is that I will try to draw with a speed so that you can follow along with me. But the thing is, if you happen to find out that the speed of the drawing in any part of this video is a little bit too fast, you can always pause the video and return to it later after you have already drawn what I have drawn. All right. And so because of that, we can always follow each other's progress, and we'll make sure that I can guide you through these diagrams and take you back in one piece, basically. All right. All right. So now the last piece of disclaimer is that every single person's coronary arterial system is a little bit different. Not two people are completely the same, okay? Anatomical variations are something that exists, okay? And so because of that, in this video, I'm going to draw out the coronary arterial system of a person whose arterial system is going to be most representative of the whole population, okay? But please do aware that not every person is going to have the arterial system of the heart quite the same as this one. And yes, so basically beware of anatomical variations. All right, so let us begin. First off, let us draw this border here on the right side of the heart. Okay, and this border here is going to be the representative of the right atrium. Okay, and then we are going to draw out this border here on the inferior side that is going to be representative of the right ventricle. And now we are going to loop back once again over here on this side, and we are going to draw the left border of the heart, which is going to be consisting of two structures. The left ventricle down here and the left atrium up here. Okay, and so now that we have already gotten the overall silhouette of a heart, let's just draw out some of the main vessels that attach to this silhouette. Number one, you have the superior vena cava that is going to be connected to the right atrium up here. So this is SVC. Then you're going to have one more on the inferior side, the IVC, that is going to be connected to the right atrium from the inferior side upwards, right? All right, and now through here, you're going to have a artery that kind of runs diagonally at the front of the heart and then divides into two. This thing is the pulmonary trunk, and it's going to divide into the right pulmonary artery and the left pulmonary artery. Okay, and then finally, we are going to draw out the aorta. The aorta is going to start with the bulb of the aorta down here, and then going up to the ascending aorta, the arch of the aorta, which consists of three branches coming off from that arch. And then after that, you go down, becoming the thoracic aorta. And then finally, You go down here, still the thoracic aorta, but that's going to change when the aorta is going to pierce the diaphragm at the level of T12, okay, in order to become the abdominal aorta. All right, so now that we have seen all of the structures of the heart that we need, let us just erase all of these labels, okay? So you know all of these, what these are. Now we're going to erase them a little bit, okay? All right, and now that we have erased all of them, let us draw out 4 structures that are going to be pretty important in our drawing of the arterial system of the coronary system, okay? And those 2 are going to be, number 1, you have what is known as the right coronary sulcus. That is going to run in between the right atrium over here and the right ventricle over here. Okay, let me delete that a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then we are going to draw out another one over here. That is going to be the left coronary sulcus between the left atrium and the left ventricle down there. Okay, and then after that, please do know that this coronary sulcus is going to extend over to the back or the posterior side of the heart. Okay, and kind of connect both of the coronary sulci on the front with each other. Okay, so that is the coronary sulcus, and that is going to be the thing that separates atria from ventricles. All right, so now let us just draw out 2 more sulci. One sulcus is called the anterior interventricular sulcus, and it's going to run right in the middle of the 2 ventricles. Okay, this is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. It's going to run in between. Okay, and it's going to run like that at the front or the anterior side of the heart. Okay, now there is another one up here in the back as well, and that is going to be called the posterior interventricular groove or the posterior interventricular sulcus. All right, so now that we have already drawn out all of those sulci, let us switch pens to a red one, and we shall begin drawing the coronary arterial system of the heart. Whew, so much setup. But now the fun begins. Number 1, you got to realize that the left and the right coronary artery are both going to be started from this bulb of the aorta over here. In this area, the bulb of the aorta, you will find a valve, okay, the aortic valve, that had 3 different leaflets, okay? There's one leaflet over here, which is the right leaflet. There's one over here that's called the left leaflet. There's also another one back here that is called the posterior leaflet. But the posterior leaflet doesn't give rise to any coronary artery, so we are going to ignore it for now, okay? Let us just focus on the right and the left leaflets of the aortic valve first, okay? Now, from the right leaflet, you have the right coronary artery that's going to be starting from that right leaflet going out, okay? And it's going to run on the right coronary sulcus like this, okay? It's going to run like this. So that is the right coronary artery, okay? And now, at its origin, almost, is going to be a branch that's going to branch out, going this way, like that, and supplied a structure right here. And that structure happens to be called the SA node, which is a very, very important part of the conduction system of the heart. Basically, the pacemaker of the heart, okay? Because this artery here is going to feed the SA node, we call it, unsurprisingly, the SA nodal artery, okay? And the SA nodal artery is most likely going to come from the right coronary artery, okay? Now, the coronary artery is going to continue going down here until it gets to what you can say the right border of the heart. And at the right border of the heart, you will have a branch of the right coronary artery that travels down this border like this, okay? And you would call that the right marginal artery. Makes sense, right? Because the right marginal artery is going to follow the right margin of the heart. This kind of makes sense. Now, the right marginal artery can sometimes be called the acute marginal artery. For reasons that I will not disclose here because it would take another video, the right margin of the heart is also called the acute margin of the heart. And therefore, you got the right marginal artery, aka the acute marginal artery. All right, so let's follow it more. The right coronary artery is going to turn right here when it reaches this point, okay? And it's going to loop back towards the back or the posterior side of the heart. And it's going to continue going in the coronary sulcus like this. And when it reaches this portion, it is going to give up another branch right here. And that branch is going to feed another structure right here called, unsurprisingly, the AV node. Because the AV node is going to be in between the atria and the ventricles. AV node is going to be another important structure in the conducting system of the heart. Okay? And so because of that, this artery, because it feeds the AV node, it is called the AV nodal artery. These names are so intuitive. Doesn't it make you want to praise the people who named this? Anyway, let's continue. Okay, so after giving off the AV nodal artery, the right coronary artery is going to dive down, okay, like that, into the posterior interventricular groove, all the way to the apex of the heart like this, okay? And that branch there is going to be called the posterior interventricular artery. However, that is only its anatomical name. A here stands for anatomical, okay? In the real world, I should say, in the clinical setting, this artery is usually called the posterior descending artery, also called PDA. All right, so don't be afraid when they tell you, okay, this is the posterior interventricular artery. Yeah, it is the same as the posterior descending artery. It's the same terminology. Okay, don't be afraid of that. All right. So now that is going to be the right coronary artery and those branches of it, all right? So now let us find out what the left coronary artery goes, okay, where it goes. Number one, it's going to start right here at the left leaflet of the aortic valve, right here at the bulb of the aorta. And then it's going to run right here, run behind, okay, the pulmonary trunk just a little bit. And right here, it is called either the left coronary artery or simply just left main, okay, left main artery in terms of clinical, okay, LM. The reason why it's called left main is because it instantly is going to divide into two branches. One of them dive into the anterior interventricular sulcus and go down to the apex of the heart like this. And we would call that the anterior interventricular artery, okay? And that, once again, is going to be its anatomical name, okay? Now, in the clinical world, okay, it's going to be called the left anterior descending artery, or LAD for short, all right? So these are the clinical names, PDA and LAD. All right, so next, after it has divided into the anterior interventricular artery, the left main also gives out another branch that is going to travel like this, okay? And we call it the left circumflex artery, circumflex artery, or LCX. Excuse me, LCX in the clinical setting. And this LCX branch is going to give off a branch right here that's going to go down following the left border of the heart. And we call that the left marginal artery. Just like before when we have the right marginal artery, now we have the left marginal artery. There's another name for this one though. We also call it the obtuse marginal artery in a clinical setting. Why? Because, for reason, once again, that I will not divulge in this video because it would take too long. The left margin of the heart is also called the obtuse margin. And therefore, the left marginal artery is also called the obtuse marginal artery. Now, the left circumflex artery, after it had given off the left marginal artery, is going to go once again to the back of the heart, to the posterior side of the heart. Okay, and it's going to run all the way to this point here, where it almost touches the posterior interventricular artery. So all of this structure make up a crown, which is why it is called the coronary arterial system. Coronary means crown. So now you know. All right. Okay, so now before we stop this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the branches of the anterior and posterior interventricular arteries. Okay, now there are two types of branches of the anterior ventricular and the posterior ventricular artery. One of them are going to be these diagonal branches right here that runs on the surface. Okay, you have those on the anterior interventricular, and you also have those in the posterior interventricular. Okay, and those guys are going to be called the diagonal branches. Okay, diagonal branches. And now you also have another branch. Okay, and these guys goes deep to supply the structure that underlies the two interventricular sulci, which is going to be the interventricular septum. And therefore, these branches that goes deep here are going to be called septal branches. And you have septal branches of LAD. And you have the septal branches of PDA. One thing that is clinically significant is that the septal branches of LAD is going to supply the anterior 2/3 of the muscular interventricular septum. And the septal branches of PDA is going to be only supplying the 1/3 posterior part of the IV septum. Okay, so that's clinically significant, and you do need to know it. All right, guys, and that is my interpretation and drawing of the coronary arterial system. I hope that you were able to follow